welcome to a new episode of Out from the Horrorbox. Today's episode is going to be a news and story episode. So we're not going to review a movie or anything. So if that's not what you came to hear, then you can go ahead and listen to some of the other episodes we have up. But yeah, so this one's just going to be me talking about some news that I found and then getting into like some scary stories. It'll be different every time. It'll always be like news, but what the second part of the episode might be, we'll change and differ. This week I've got a list of some scary stuff that I found on the internet, and we'll go over that. So let's just dive on in.
This is the fucking news.
The first thing I want to talk about is that Stephen King and Richard Chizmar's new book, Gwendy's Final Task, that's going to be the third and final book in the Gwendy's Button Box trilogy. The cover art has just been released, and it looks like it is going to be connected to the Dark Tower. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, the Dark Tower is a series by Stephen King. There's 8 books. This is a magnum opus. It connects basically to all of his other works. If you're a huge Stephen King fan, you'll know what I'm talking about. And looks like I got to start reading this because I didn't know it was going to connect to the larger Stephen King universe. I mean, here's the synopsis for the book. When Gwendy Peterson was 12, a mysterious stranger named Richard Ferris gave her a mysterious box for safekeeping. It offered treats and vintage coins, but it was dangerous. Pushing any of its 7 colored buttons promised death and destruction. Years later, the button box entered Gwendy's life again. A successful novelist and a rising political star, she was once again forced to deal with the temptation that box represented. Now, evil forces seek to possess the button box, and it is up to Senator Gwendy Peterson to keep it from them at all costs. But where can you hide something from such powerful entities? And it looks like it continues on. In Gwendy's Final Task, Stephen King and Richard Chizmar take us on a journey from Castle Rock to another famous cursed main city to the MF-1 space station, where Gwendy must execute a secret mission to save the world, and maybe all worlds, which that heavily draws into the Dark Tower series. And I mean, the artwork is it looks just like, I mean, it looks like a Dark Tower book. I mean, it's got the Dark Tower on it. It has the rose field, the field of roses. It has the signature top hat from the Gwendy's Button Box. Man, now I gotta start reading these. Did not know that these were gonna start connecting. I had heard about Gwendy's Button Box. I didn't even know there was a second one. Now there's a third one. I love that when he collaborates with other people. But I love that he's also able to just draw them straight into, like, hey, let's connect this to the Dark Tower. And they're like, yeah, because he did that with, oh my God, Peter Straub. When they collaborated on The Talisman, that one was its own singular book by itself. And then the sequel, Black House, he ended up doing the same thing, where he's like, hey, let's connect this to the Dark Tower. And Peter Straub was all for it and into it and was like, oh yeah, we can do that. And now it's one of the ones you don't like. Obviously there are people out there who know what I'm talking about with Stephen King. They're constant readers like me. So some of these books you are like supplemental to the Dark Tower, and some of them are required reading for the Dark Tower. Like, I mean, they're not really required, but, like, they kind of are. Like Salem's Lot. You kind of need to read that to understand where Father Callahan's from. That's kind of a spoiler. And then, like, Insomnia, you can read, but at the same time, like, the Dark Tower tells you, you don't. I don't. See, it gets it gets kind of crazy as to what you should read, what you shouldn't read. This, I guess, you do because it looks like it's going full Dark Tower, full crazy. So anyone out there who is a constant reader who does read the Dark Towers and had been putting this off, like not reading Gwendy's Button Box, that trilogy, now it looks like you kind of should because it looks like it's gonna connect somehow, and like it's crazy because like reading this, like the person, the mysterious stranger who gave her the box when she was 12 is Richard Ferris, and anyone out there who's a constant reader will know RF. That's Randall Flagg. So yeah, I mean, obviously it was connecting from the beginning. So got to start reading that. Okay, so for any Doctor Who fans out there, it looks like Doctor Who is going to return with a Halloween special. So Jodie Whittaker is back in the 13th series of Doctor Who, this Halloween titled Doctor Who Flux. So it looks like the series, this, I think it's only going to be 6 episodes, or that's what it looks like it's saying. This is her third, and it's going to be her final season as the 13th Doctor. So the first episode is going to be called The Halloween Apocalypse, and that's going to debut on Halloween. But it looks like the details are Jodie Whittaker returns for her third and final season as the 13th Doctor, the most recent incarnation of the Doctor, an alien Time Lord who travels through time and space in their ship, the TARDIS, which externally assumes appearance of a British police box. The 13th series also stars Mandip Gill John Bishop as the Doctor's traveling companions, playing Yasmin Khan and Dan Lewis, respectively. The series will consist of 6 episodes, which are set to form a single story across the series. The 6 episodes were directed by Jamie Mangstone and Azar Salim. Chibnall wrote all 6 episodes of the series, co-writing 1 episode with Maxine Alderton, who returned from writing for the previous season. Sounds pretty good. I need to catch up on Doctor Who, honestly, because I did not see the past couple seasons. I know that they introduced some twists and turns in her series. I know they introduced some twists and turns in Jodie Whittaker's series and her run as the Doctor. I know they brought Captain Jack back, and I don't know who they're set to replace her with. Honestly, like I can't wait. I still love Doctor Who. I think it's so good. The picture I get from it looks pretty good. I like that they're gonna do a Halloween special. They normally do a Christmas special. This is so we're gonna see something a little bit darker, probably. I mean, Doctor Who can get a little dark sometimes, especially when you got like the one with like the devil, and then the one with like the weeping angels or whatever they're called, or the silencers. Is that what they're called? Ones that when you look at them and then if you look away, you forget that you saw them. I am blanking. I haven't watched, like I said, I haven't watched Doctor Who in so long. So yeah, so anyone who is a fan out there and has been waiting for something, this is it. Here we go. It's gonna start that final season or series. Sorry, because that's what they call it, of Doctor Who. If any of you were like me and were a fan of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, you would know that last year it came to an end after 36 episodes, and I think it was only 4 seasons, and it was an amazing show, even though it was a little melodramatic here and there, but it was a pretty good show for what it was. But we did know that it was set in the same universe as Riverdale. Now, Riverdale is a show on CW that I've never watched and probably will never watch. Looks to me, it looks kind of cheesy, melodramatic, soap opera-y, I guess. I don't know. It just isn't my cup of tea, but it looks like Kiernan Shipka is going to reprise her role of Sabrina in the upcoming 6th season of the CW's Riverdale. And it looks like they just released a like promo for it the other day, like a trailer promo. I watched it. It's got all the Riverdale stuff that I don't really care about. Got some witchy, cool, atmospheric, like, ooh, someone's dead, someone's dying, gonna get killed, some like ghosts, and we're gonna summon this and summon that. But then at the very end, we get Kiernan Shipka, uh, Sabrina Spellman at the end, and so like here's basically what the story is. Cheryl is performing. I guess Cheryl's from Riverdale. If there's people out there listening and they love Riverdale, I'm sorry, but I just don't like it. I probably will watch this just to get that taste of the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina again, just because I love that show. But other than that, I probably won't watch it. So Cheryl's performing a dangerous spell, one that may mean the difference between life and death for a beloved member of the Blossom family. Luckily, she's getting a much-needed assist from everybody's favorite 20-something witch, the iconic Sabrina Spellman, visiting from Greendale in this Years in the Making crossover. Years in the Making crossover. It's going to be on Tuesday, November 16th. She'll appear in the season's 4th episode, which is titled The Witching Hours. And so I'm not sure if it's even is it going to just be one episode, if it's going to be multiple episodes. I assume it's going to be a couple episodes, but it's going to be a couple episodes into the new season. Whatever, probably won't watch it until then. I mean, I don't. It's cool. It's a cool idea, especially like I know what Riverdale is. It's a revamping of the Archies, and it's supposed to be like a more modern take on that. And then Chilling Adventures of Sabrina's was also supposed to be a revamped version of that. And to see them cross over and get spooky, I mean, that's cool. I'll say that's pretty cool for them to do, and especially for a series that isn't necessarily like that on a normal basis, isn't necessarily in the realm of horror. It's more of, like I said, more like a romance, like teen drama ish show. So for it to be like, hey, let's take this kind of left turn and go down the spooky route and the horror route. I mean, I'll give them props for that though. That's pretty cool. Especially like they said, it took years to get to this crossover. Even with like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina getting canceled, they still were like, we're sticking to it. So props on them. All right, so this is the last bit of news. We got to see from a set photo from Rob Zombie that was put onto his Instagram from the set of his version of the Munsters. And I did not know. Actually, I thought I heard something that he was making the Munsters, but I didn't even know that he was doing this. The photo shows Herman Munster, Lily Munster, and Grandpa. It confirms that Jeff Daniel Phillips is playing Herman Munster, Sherry Moon Zombie is playing Lily Munster, and Daniel Roebuck is co-starring as Grandpa Munster. They're sitting in front of the iconic 1313 Mockingbird Lane house. And honestly, you know what? Looked pretty good. I'll say that. I was dreading looking at anything from the set because I was like, oh my god, is it going to just be more hillbillies again? I mean, you can love Rob Zombie all you want. And I mean, House of a Thousand Corpses is pretty good. At first when I watched it, I was like, meh. And then I watched it again, and, I got a little bit more into it. And you know what? For being his very first film and being, what he wanted to do with it is, like, crazy and out there and way more artistic than I thought. And, Halloween is pretty good. And the cartoon he did, I forgot what it's called. That one's pretty good. I've tried watching Devil's Rejects. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Halloween 2 is a terrible movie, and he does a lot of he puts a lot of himself into his films, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of like the art direction he goes in with a lot of his films because it's based on like how he looks and how he acts and where he's come from. And so it's a lot of hillbilly looking, like long hair, big beard, and then obviously he puts his wife in the. And I'm not saying she's a terrible actress. I'm just saying that I don't think she needs to be in every every film. This looks pretty good. It looks pretty faithful. I have a good feeling that this will be a pretty good film, even if it's his take on it. I still think he's going to be a little bit more faithful to the original series, and I could still see it being like maybe like the niece is a little bit more like hippie-ish instead of like the clean cut, like how it was from like the original ones in the '60s, and how she was more clean cut. But I mean, I'll take that over having like a Herman Munster who's all got a big beard and looks like a hobo, and he's all, oh, fuck you and fuck that and cussing, and then Grandpa's got a beard and he's all fuck you and fuck that, you know what I mean? And then Lily Munster's all, oh, fuck you, fuck that, you know what I mean? Like cursing and stuff, because that's pretty much what he does in all of his films. So, you know what? I'm hoping this is going to be pretty good. It looks like it could be pretty good. It does say that it's possible that it could end up being on Peacock exclusive. So, I'm not sure. I don't know. So, let's see how it goes in the future. Hopefully we'll be able to see more from this, and we'll see some more photos, and maybe it will look pretty good. Alright, so to wrap things up for today, we're going to go over the 10 creepiest unsolved mysteries that will make your hair stand on end. So, this is just a list I found a while ago that I thought, hey, that'd actually be a pretty good, list to go over. So, let's start with number 10. The strange death of Zygmunt Adamski. Zygmunt Adamski was a Polish-born miner at the Lofthouse Colliery in West Yorkshire, England. On June 6, 1980, he mysteriously disappeared from his home after leaving to go and buy some potatoes. His body was found 5 days later, on June 11th, lying face up on top of a large stack of coal in Todmorden, a town with which he had no connection. His clothes were in good condition, although the shirt was removed. It appeared that neither had he slept rough in the intervening days. He had been eating healthily and that no struggle was taking place. It was also noticed that only 1 day's worth of beard growth had taken place, despite the length of being missing, suggesting he had also been able to shave. His postmortem found that Adamski's death took place between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. that day. The burn on his neck that had been there 2 days before his death and had a peculiar green-colored ointment applied that forensic scientists could not identify. The 15-foot coal pile he was found on was undisturbed, along with no coal residue on his body, and postmortem found that he had died of natural causes and was determined to be from a heart attack, with a look of sheer terror. Oh, that's creepy. So I wonder what happened. Like, it sounds like he got a burn on his neck and put ointment, but that was like in the time that I was missing. Wow, that's creepy. Number 9. Disappearance of Lars Mittank. Lars Mittank is a German who disappeared on the 8th of July 2014 near Varna Airport in Varna, Bulgaria. Mittank was on vacation in a beach resort town named Golden Sands with his group of friends. 2 days before his disappearance, Mittank got into an argument with 4 other men over a disagreement about football. Mittank, being a fan of German football team Werder Bremen, was in an argument with 4 Bayern Munich fans. The argument resulted in Mittank having a ruptured eardrum. After a doctor advised Lars not to fly and prescribed an antibiotic before admitting him to a hospital, Lars' friend wanted to stay with him, but he insisted they fly home without him. Mitek stayed in Bulgaria without his friends and checked into a cheap hotel. A day after his friends left, Mitek was reported to have odd behavior, which was also captured on the hotel's CCTV cameras. He spent only one night in the hotel, but was paranoid and nervous. He texted his mother stating that he was not safe and told her to cancel his credit card and that he was hiding from four men who were supposedly following him and asked him for where his pills were. Mitek was last seen in Varna Airport. He was captured by airport security cameras running away. Once outside the airport, he was seen climbing a fence, running into a meadow into the woods. He has not been seen since. Yeah, I've seen the footage of that. That's crazy. He's like walking into the airport casually or whatever, and then at some point he just turns around, bolts out of there, and runs out, and you don't see him again. It's crazy. Kali River Nooch attacks. The Kali River Nooch attacks were a series of fatal attacks on humans in 3 villages on the banks of the Kali River in India and Nepal. Between 1998 and 2007, British biologist Jeremy Wade volunteered to capture the perpetrator. Though originally skeptical of the truth behind the attacks, he later became intrigued because the attacks only occurred in a specific area spanning 4 to 5 miles. He was told by the villagers that the creature likely developed a taste for human flesh and had grown large after eating half-burnt human remains discarded from funeral pyres on the riverbanks. Crocs and sharks were ruled out. The best he could come up with was that catfish had started eating the corpses pushed into the river from funeral pyres and had grown huge. They even found a 6-footer there, but nothing was ever proven. Weird. Number 7. The case of Sarah and Jacob Hoggle. On September 7, 2014, 45-year-old Troy Turner left his kids and their mother, 31-year-old Catherine Hoggle, at Catherine's mother's home in Gaines. At Catherine's mother's house. On September 7, 2014, 45-year-old Troy Turner left his kids and their mother, 31-year-old Catherine Hoggle, at Catherine's mother's home in Gaithersburg, Maryland, before going to work around 2:30 p.m. He did not leave her unsupervised with their children because she has schizophrenia and could not be trusted to be safe with them. According to police investigating the case, Catherine left her mother's home that day in 2014 around 4 p.m., saying she was taking Jacob out to get pizza. 3 hours later, without either Jacob or pizza, she returned to say she had dropped him off at a playmate's house for a sleepover. She had then took Sarah and the couple's older son back to her own home. Troy came home and went to bed without checking on the children as usual because he was tired. He then awoke the next morning to discover Jacob, Sarah, and their mother all gone. While Catherine eventually returned, she claimed she dropped the 2 children. While Catherine eventually returned, she claimed she dropped the 2 kids off at a new child care center. After hours of being cagey about where the new daycare is, Troy headed towards the police station with Catherine to get help. Catherine asked him to stop at a fast food restaurant, and after texting her mother that the missing kids were fine, she disappeared herself, not to reemerge for several days when she was found wandering the streets and taken into custody. The children have not been found, and although Catherine claims that they are fine, the children have been declared dead by investigators. The family still searches for them, but both Troy and his mother-in-law believe they are probably dead. For a long time, they hoped Catherine had given them to someone for safekeeping, but too much time has passed for that theory to be realistic. Catherine has been declared unfit for trial due to her paranoid schizophrenia, but family members who know Catherine believe she is playing the system and knows more than she's letting on. Catherine has attempted to escape the hospital psych ward, where she's been kept several times, and flat out refuses to tell anyone what happened to the children. Dang, that's crazy that like you could just do that. Like you could just be like, "Okay, kids, let's get out of here." Crazy. Number 6, Beale ciphers. The Beale ciphers, or Beale papers, are a set of 3 cipher texts, one of which allegedly states the location of buried treasure of gold, silver, and jewels, estimated to be worth over 43 million in U.S. money. And as of March 2019, the ciphers haven't been cracked, and the treasure not yet discovered. The story of the 3 cipher texts originates from the 1885 pamphlet. The story of the 3 cipher texts originates from an 1885 pamphlet detailing treasure being buried by a man named Thomas J. Beale, who was the leader of a group of 30 gentlemen adventurers from Virginia who stumbled upon the rich mine of gold and silver while hunting buffalo. According to it, they spent 18 months mining thousands of pounds of precious metals, which they then charged Beale with transporting to Virginia and burying in a secure location. After Beale had multiple trips to stalk the hiding place, he then encrypted 3 messages: the location, the description of the treasure, and the names of its owners and their relatives. The treasure location is traditionally linked to Montevideo in Bedford County, Virginia. Beale placed the ciphertext and some other papers in an iron box. In 1822, he entrusted the box to an innkeeper for safekeeping and never returned. 10 years later, that innkeeper opened the box to find the 3 ciphers, and he handed it to a friend. Using an edition of the United States Declaration of Independence as a key for a modified book cipher, his friend successfully deciphered the second ciphertext, which gave a description of the buried treasure. Unable to solve the other 2 ciphertexts, he ultimately made the letters and ciphertext public in a pamphlet entitled The Beale Papers, published by another friend, James B. Ward, in 1885. Crazy. Number 5. Murder of John Lang. John Lang was a local attorney from Fresno, California, who began tackling police harassment, specifically a license plate scam done in low-income neighborhoods by posting them online. After Lang's posts began making headlines, he boasted that the police department was plotting against him. People thought he was crazy until he set up a camera that recorded cops parking across the street from his house, staring at him in the middle of the night, and a van pulling up with a large camera that people theorized took thermal pictures through walls to see if anyone was inside. As Lang began to become more paranoid, he posted a cryptic Facebook post where he more or less predicted his death. A few days later, his house was burned and he was dead. The coroner reported that he was stabbed repeatedly in the back and died of asphyxiation. He then recanted, saying it was supposedly a suicide. But the police totally did it. You know they did it. Number 4. Paulette Guibarra Farah. On the evening of March 21st, 2010, 4-year-old Paulette Guibarra Farah returned to her apartment in Mexico after a weekend trip with her father, Mauricio Guibarra, and 7-year-old sister. Paulette suffered from numerous developmental disabilities due to being born prematurely. After Paulette arrived home from her trip, her mother put her to bed, but the next morning Paulette was gone. She was missing from her room. The police were eventually notified, and they discovered no signs of forced entry or struggle. Paulette's bedroom was located on the 2nd floor, and the only point of entry was a window, which was not broken or tampered with. Detectives investigated the room as well as police dogs were brought in, but they found nothing. 9 days later, investigators noticed a foul odor in Paulette's bedroom and soon discovered her decomposing body wrapped in blankets underneath the foot of the bed, wedged in between the mattress and the wooden footboard. An autopsy determined that the cause of death was asphyxiation that obstructed her respiratory airways and compressed her abdominal thorax. She is said to have rolled down to the end of her bed and suffocated between the bed frame, comforter, and mattress. This begs the questions: how did 2 nannies, her own family, and loads of detectives and the dogs miss her body? Yeah, that's strange. Like, right? If it was in her room and like they brought the dogs in, like to sniff her out. Like, how did they not find her? Like, that's so crazy. Number 3, Green Children of Woolpit. Sometime during the 12th century, 2 children appeared in the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, England, seemingly out of nowhere. These were no ordinary orphans. The boy and girl spoke in an unknown tongue, sported strange clothing, and only ate raw beans. Their skin was also green, and they had emerged from one of the wolf trapping pits for which the town is named. The pits designed were to lure and ensnare dangerous wolves. The townsfolk gave them a home, and in time they lost their green color and diversified their diets, but the boy became increasingly depressed and sickly before succumbing to illness and dying. When the girl learned to speak English, she relayed the story of their underground homeland, St. Martin's Land, where everything was green and it was always twilight. According to the girl, the boy was her brother. In one version of the story, she said that they both had been herding their father's cattle when they heard a loud noise and suddenly found themselves in the bottom of a wolf pit. Gosh, that's strange. Number 2. Shelly Miskovich's disappearance. Scientology leader David Miskovich's wife has not been seen publicly in 13 years, and some fear she will never be seen again. Shelly Miskovich, dubbed the Queen of Scientology, was last seen at her father's funeral in 2007. Her husband's father, Ron Miskovich, who left the church in 2012, fears Shelly will never be free. The church insists she's just too busy to make public appearances, but former member Lee Remini has filed a missing person report for her in 2013 with the Los Angeles Police Department. There's also another missing person report filed. LAPD closed both of her missing cases reports without releasing any further information about her, only confirming that she is not missing and not dead. Many believe that she is alive and potentially being held against her will in a legally precarious situation, i.e. she refuses help due to brainwashing or fear of retaliation, not because she is actually safe and happy. Yeah, that's been going on for a long time. I don't think we're ever going to find out what happened. Number 1. Disappearance of Gary Mathias. 5 men between the ages of 24 and 32 were very close friends. They went to see a basketball game 50 miles away. After the game, they drove to a convenience store to grab some snacks and drinks, and then they were never seen alive again. Their car was found on a mountain and around the snow line, 70 miles away from the basketball game, nowhere near the route back home. The car was abandoned, and it still drove fine and had gas. On the same night they went missing, a man was driving up the same road and got stuck. When he tried pushing his car out, he had a heart attack. He saw another car pull up behind him with a group of people around it, including a woman with a baby. When he called for help, they stopped talking and turned their lights off. Later on, he saw people walking around with flashlights. When he called for help, they again turned their lights off. This all happened in February. In June, the first of the bodies were found. One man, Weher, was found in a ranger's trail 20 miles from the car. He had lost almost 100 pounds, and the growth of his beard suggested he'd been alive in the trailer for up to 13 weeks before he starved to death. The trailer had matches and things for burning. It had heavy clothing to wear. It had enough food for all 5 men to survive on for a year. It had heating that was never turned on. Bones of 3 of the other men were eventually found around the trail leading from the car to the trailer. They are believed to have died of hypothermia, though Gary Mathias' shoes were in the trailer with Weher, suggesting he was there at some point, and Weher had been tucked into a bed, so somebody else was with him. His remains were never found. Nobody knows why they were even on that road to begin with, let alone why they would abandon their car instead of just driving back down the road, or why, once they got to the trailer, they didn't use any of the supplies to stay alive. Some strange things out there. Sometimes things happen and it's like, how do you explain that? How do you explain any of this? Well, that's going to be it for this episode. I'll eventually do another episode with news, and we'll get into something else. I'll find another list, or I'll find like a couple scary stories to tell, or something. So if you like this, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want. If there's something you want to send in, if there's any news you heard, you can always send it to horrorboxpodcast@gmail.com. And you can, if you have any stories you want to send me, if there's anything that like, personal stories like ghosts, aliens, creatures, cryptids, any of that. I love to hear all those, and I want to read them for everybody to hear. Also, if you have anything maybe that you wrote yourself that is fiction, horror, or if there's anything you want me to like review, I can review on here too. Like not a movie, but like if there's anything else you'd like me to review, maybe like a game or something, I could do it on here on these episodes. Or you can also DM me at Horrorbox Podcast on Instagram, and I always love getting those. So reach out, let me know what you think. So for next time, I can get some stuff ready for you guys. Yeah, so go on there, follow on Instagram. Let me know what you think, and until next time, we'll see what comes